This is for Chapter 3, an Introduction to Excel. You can download this Excel sheet to work along with me right here. Before we begin, just a quick note, if you're new to Excel, if you, this white kind of chunky cursor is the select cursor. It will select a cell with a click. And then if you type in the cell, if I type text, and notice how it's left justified, but if I type a number, then it's right justified. So Excel will automatically now has formatted this for text and formatted this as a number. Then if you take your cursor and you move it to the lower right hand corner, see how it changes shape? Now if you click and drag, you have your copy cursor. So it will copy the contents of that cell down. Now once you have values in a neighboring column, there's a shortcut to copy contents down. If I click on the 42, and now I move my cursor to that spot and I double click, it goes until the end of the neighboring column. So it just figures that you want to copy until the neighboring cells end. And then I can select all of them, delete to clear the contents. Okay, but Excel was made to do calculations, but if I just say 3 plus 4, it reads it as characters, 3 plus 4. If I want it to calculate, you have to start with an equal sign. Now, if I say 3 plus 4, I get the calculation. You can start with any arithmetic character, like any operation. So plus 3 plus 4 puts it in calculation mode. Usually we start calculation mode with an equals. And then if I were to type text again, now that I'm in the calculation mode, it's looking for a formula. So there is like a max formula. There's a sum formula that you can bring up. Where without the equal sign, if I just type max or sum, it doesn't recognize that it's a built-in formula. Okay, let's go. I want to add up the revenues for the first quarter. And there are a few ways to do that. Start with equals, and I could do 3,600 plus 3,825 plus 4,200. That would add them up. The problem with doing it this way is that it's what we call static. So a double click on the cell will bring up the contents of the cell. This will always be a 3,600. This will always be a 3,825. So if I go back and I change January to 0, watch the effect on the quarterly. See, it doesn't change because it's still adding up 3,600. Let me undo this. But what I would like is to get a spreadsheet that will dynamically update if these cell values change. And to do that, I can't have those constants in there. Instead, I want to reference the contents of the cell, and the cell has an address. It's in column B and row 2. So if I type B2, notice the color coding comes up to say it's recognized that as an address. Excuse me. It's a little bit faster now to click on the cell and then plus and click on cell D2. Now if I update January, watch what happens to the quarter. See, it's still taking the contents of the cell, not a static value. Okay, let me undo that. There we go. Okay, another thing to recognize is that this cell reference is what we call a relative reference. It doesn't really mean the cell B2. What it refers to is the cell 3 units to the left of where this formula resides. And then this C2 is actually 2 units to the left, and D2 is 1 unit to the left. So if I take this and I copy it down a row, notice I don't get the same 11,000 because it's taking 3 units to the left, plus 2 units to the left, plus 1 unit to the left, 1 cell to the left. Since there are values in neighboring columns, I could, with a double click, copy all the way down, and notice that it went all the way over to here. So it didn't stop at those cells. It went and recognized the values in the column all the way to the left. So just keep an eye on what your formulas are doing and determine whether you want that to be what it does. One other thing to notice is that These cells were formatted as currency, so when I copied it down, it copied the formatting also. To change the formatting, this is on the Home tab. Change it to a number. By default, it will give me 2 decimal places, but I don't want decimal places. That's these 2 icons. So this one will remove and show you fewer decimal places and round. You could also put a comma in there, but now I've got the 2 decimal places again. I have to take them back out. So by default, when you put in a comma, you get 2 decimal places. When you put in currency, you get 2 decimal places. But here you can either get more, and that means that my column is too narrow. There we go. You can get either more or fewer decimal places. Okay, now for profit. The definition of profit is revenue, which for January is in this cell, less cost, which is in cell B3 for January. Okay, now the B2 doesn't actually mean the cell B2. It means, for a relative reference, the cell that's 4 units above where the formula resides, subtract the cell 3 units above where the formula resides. And if I copy this over and double click on the cell, you can see that the relative referencing is moving also. For quarterly, I want revenue minus costs also, so I can copy the formula all the way over to here. Per unit cost. Per unit would be total costs, now divided by the number of units that were produced. Again, that's a relative reference. So if I pull it over, I have the per unit cost. And now I'm hitting the escape key to leave the cell. Okay, I'm realizing I probably should make a little insert here, that when you are in formula mode and you click on a cell, it brings up the address of the cell. But what if you made a mistake and you want to get out of this cell? Well, you could backspace, and then if you click somewhere, or your other option is once you're in formula mode and you want out, you hit the escape key. If you go to the Formulas tab, this icon, and I'm in a reduced window view. If I widen this out, see now it says the name of it is Show Formulas. Otherwise, it's this icon. Click on it, and now it's going to show me all the formulas in the cells, and it also widened out the columns. There they are. So now you can see anywhere on this worksheet any cell that has formulas in it, which makes it easier to troubleshoot.